Story 1. The Algorithm of Blackwood Lane. I used to be a mapping driver for a major tech company. You know the job, driving a car with a massive 360-degree camera rig on the roof, capturing every street, every house, every hidden alleyway for the world to see online. Most of the time, it's mind-numbing work. But then, I was assigned to Blackwood Lane. Blackwood Lane isn't on most maps. It's a small, isolated development tucked behind a dense forest in rural Ohio. When I pulled in, the first thing I noticed was the light. It was midday, but the sky had this sickly, oversaturated yellow tint, like an old photograph left in the sun too long. I started driving. The camera was clicking away. Click whir, click whir. I looked at my monitor, the one that shows the live feed from the roof. That's when my heart stopped. In the live feed, the houses weren't empty. In every window, every single window, there was a person. They were standing perfectly still, their faces pressed against the glass. But when I looked out my actual car window, the houses were vacant, boarded up, rotting. I tried to turn the car around, but the GPS screen started to glitch. The little blue arrow that represented my car began to spin in circles, and a voice, cold and mechanical, came through the speakers. Mapping complete. Commencing integration. I hit the gas. The road ahead of me began to stretch. I was doing 60, but the houses were passing by at a snail's pace. I looked back at the monitor. The people in the windows were now outside. They were standing on the lawns, watching me pass. They were all wearing the same thing, a technician's uniform with my name on the patch. "Stop the car," the voice whispered, but it didn't come from the speakers this time. It came from the back seat. I looked in the rearview mirror. I saw myself, not a reflection, but a version of me with eyes that were nothing but static. I didn't stop. I drove through a fence, across a field, and didn't look back until I was 10 miles away. When I uploaded the data to the server that night, the files were corrupted, except for one image. It's a 360-degree shot of my car in the middle of Blackwood Lane. If you zoom into the driver's seat, you can see me. I'm looking at the camera and I'm screaming. But the me who is looking at that photo right now is sitting in a room that looks exactly like my office. But the sky outside the window is starting to turn yellow. Story 2. The Skin of the Mountain. My father was a miner in the Appalachian range for 40 years. He was a hard man, not given to flights of fancy. But on his deathbed, he told me why he quit the mines in 1984 and never went back underground. He was working a new seam in a deep gallery when they hit a hollow. It wasn't a cave, it was a pocket of air that smelled like old meat. The drill bit came back covered in a thick, translucent slime that pulsed like a heartbeat. Most of the crew stayed back, but my father and his partner, Miller, went in to investigate. The walls of the hollow weren't rock. They were soft, rubbery. When my father touched the wall, his hand sank in, and he felt something sliding beneath the surface, like a massive muscle. Then the light from their headlamps hit the center of the room. There was a pile of clothes, hundreds of boots, shirts, and helmets. They recognized some of them. They belonged to miners who had gone missing decades ago. "Miller, we need to leave," my father said. But Miller didn't answer. He was staring at the floor. "Do you hear that, Bill?" he whispered. "The mountain is hungry. It's been waiting for a new skin." Suddenly, the floor beneath Miller's feet opened up. It didn't crack like stone. It unfolded like a mouth. Miller didn't even scream. He was swallowed whole by the earth, and the ground sealed shut instantly, leaving the surface as smooth as polished marble. My father ran. Behind him, he could hear the sound of the mountain shifting. The tunnels were closing like veins. He barely made it to the lift. As he was ascending, he looked down into the dark. He saw Miller. Miller was standing at the bottom of the shaft, but his limbs were too long and his neck was twisted at a 90-degree angle. He waved at my father, but he didn't have hands anymore. His arms just tapered off into sharp, obsidian points. "Happy birthday, Bill," the thing that looked like Miller whispered. It was my father's birthday. He never went back. He spent the rest of his life living on the 10th floor of a city apartment, as far from the skin of the earth as he could get. But every time he felt a tremor, even a small one, he would lock the door and whisper, "It's still growing. It's almost at the surface." Story 3. The Echo in the Static. I am an audio engineer. My job is to clean up white noise from old recordings, police tapes, black box flight recorders, that kind of thing. You learn to ignore the background hiss. You learn to look for the patterns. 2 months ago, I received a reel from a private collector. No labels, just a date, October 14th, 2026. That was the day I realized time isn't a straight line. I put the tape on the deck and hit play. For the first 10 minutes, it was just standard interference. But as I boosted the gain and ran it through my filters, a voice started to emerge. It was a woman. She was crying. "Is anyone there? Please. I can't feel my legs. Everything is turning to gray." I froze. I knew that voice. It was my wife, Sarah. But Sarah was in the kitchen making dinner. I could hear the clinking of plates through the door. I turned up the volume. Mark, if you can hear this, don't open the door. It's not me. It's just the static trying to look like me." Suddenly, the clinking of plates in the kitchen stopped. The voice on the tape grew frantic. "It's coming through the 12th. It mize my journey. It not into the prayer, Mark. It uses the sound to build itself. Turn it off. Turn it off." I reached for the power switch, but my hand wouldn't move. It felt like it was made of lead. The door to my studio slowly opened. Sarah walked in. She was smiling, but her eyes, they were flickering, literally flickering, like a damaged video file. "Dinner's ready, honey," she said, but her voice had a metallic ring to it, an echo that lasted just a second too long. I looked back at my monitor. The waveform of the recording wasn't a wave anymore. It had formed a shape. It looked like a face made of jagged lines and digital noise. The face opened its mouth on the screen at the exact same time the Sarah in the doorway did. "Don't you want to eat?" they said in unison. I didn't answer. I grabbed the tape and ran. I grabbed the tape and ran. I ran from my studio. I grabbed the tape and ripped it off the deck. The Sarah in the doorway let out a sound like 1,000 modem connections screaming at once. She collapsed into a pile of gray dust that looked like the snow on an old TV screen. I ran into the kitchen. My wife was there. She looked at me, confused. "Are you okay, Mark? You look like you've seen a ghost." I haven't told her. I can't. But every time I hear the hum of the refrigerator or the buzz of the microwave, I hear that voice from the tape. "It's not me, Mark. It's just the static." And sometimes when I look at Sarah in the moonlight, I see her flicker, just for a millisecond, just enough to know that the integration is almost complete.